I'm going to ask you a question you probably don't think about too often. Where does your happiness come from? Don't worry if you have to think about the answer. Not a lot of us reflect on what really makes us happy. Ice cream, a long run to burn off the ice cream, a great book like the one I'm reading from Ryan Holiday right now. These are some things that bring a smile to my face, but where does your happiness come from, and how do we define where or what? Sometimes happiness feels like an emotion that comes to us naturally, or a feeling that just happens on its own. A memory of someone or a smell reminding you of your favorite home-cooked meal from years ago. But what if I told you that you have everything you need already right now to be happier? I know it sounds like clickbait, but I mean it. Like, what if I were to tell you that you have everything you need right now to be happier? We've all been here, so it's not too difficult to imagine, but imagine you're about to start a brand new chapter in your life. After working hard for years, you get that dream job in the new city, and you've got a new place, a fresh start, and you're earning exactly what you had hoped for. But once you're there, you feel a little sad. You're not able to relax as much as you thought. Maybe you're homesick, or even thinking, I don't know, what now? You're supposed to feel happy in this case, right? It can be challenging to pinpoint the source of your happiness. I'm going to say that again. It can be challenging to pinpoint the source of your happiness. So I want to show you that you already have what you're looking for. And if you often find yourself wondering, well, shouldn't this make me happy? I want to share with you a few ways of giving yourself permission to accept and experience joy without worrying about how you should or shouldn't feel. You deserve all the joy in the world. You only need to know how to let it in. I'm Chad Lawson, and let's calm it down in 3, 2, 1. No matter what anyone tells you, no matter what commercials you see on television or hear on the radio or Instagram or whatnot, I want you to hear this. You are your own source of happiness. Believe it or not, inside of you, there is a well of joy, of love and hope that never runs dry. Sometimes finding the tap to this faucet can be challenging, as it often becomes overgrown by the emotional shrubs and bushes, but it's there. And you can be your own source of personal happiness. We'll come back to this in just a second. Also, the other side of this coin is there are plenty of external things that bring us happiness too. I mean, nice new shoes, a long weekend away. Oh, it sounds amazing. And earning a certain amount of money can always put a smile on our faces, as it makes life a little lighter. Material things are amazing sources of happiness in their own way, even if they're temporary. There's nothing wrong with enjoying a great new outfit or something fun to drive. Life can be a little easier when money is the last thing you're stressed about. But at the end of the day, these are all removable things. Have you ever saved up for something like super expensive that you really, really wanted, and then you kind of cared less about it once you got it? There's always something else to crave. I'm all for the little moments of joy and a nice vacation every now and then. It's good to treat yourself, but to invite joy that truly lasts in your life, you have to see beyond the material. The clothes you've got on your back right now, they can keep you just as warm as all of the designer clothes in the storefronts. Give yourself permission to really take pleasure in material joy. It's okay, but know that there will always be something missing if it's your only source of joy. People can also be a source of happiness and fulfillment. It's amazing how dinner with a friend or a phone call with your mom can truly make your day. And, of course, falling in love. That's its own unique kind of happiness, right? Love in all its forms is a circle that brings so much light into our lives. Being able to rely on your loved ones for support and care, it's a blessing. But how much weight can your loved ones carry? You are your own person with your own dreams and feelings. You have your own thoughts and beliefs, which were shaped by your own experiences. So when you expect others to be perfect mirrors of yourself and to be exactly who you want them to be, I hate to say it, but you're going to be disappointed. Like other external sources of happiness, your loved ones, they can't be your main source of fulfillment, no matter how wonderful they are. Not because you're unlovable or a burden, but because you have this voice inside of you that always wants to be loved and cared for. And the love it's asking is for yours, just yours, nobody else's. Your loved ones can be one of the biggest sources of happiness if you allow yourself to feel it. But it's important to accept that other people will never fulfill you the way that you can fulfill yourself. Invite all sources of love and joy in. Open the door. Bring it all in. But remember, where your well of happiness comes from. Now, of course, there's going to be times when things that usually make you happy suddenly just don't work anymore. Remember that you always have the power to accept your emotions and reevaluate your circumstances. We change, our preferences change, life changes. But sometimes the trick is to open up a little bit more. You're homesick in your new city, but there's always an adjustment period. Your job isn't as perfect as you thought, but there's always room to grow, or perhaps a better fit in a different position. Let go a little and see. Invite joy by releasing worry. But internally, your well of joy, of love and hope, it never runs dry. When things don't go your way, it's important to remember you can always rely on yourself. You have yourself to lean on. You are an endless source of joy. You have everything it takes to not only open yourself up to happiness, but to create your own. You can't be happy if you don't feel the world as yourself. I asked you earlier, where does your happiness come from? Now I'm asking you, what is preventing you from experiencing it? Experiencing more happiness, accepting your thoughts of what brings you comfort, what brings you peace. What is preventing you from being happy? Just as you are the sources of your own joy, you can often be your own limitations. Maybe it sounds too simple, and I'm finding more and more that the most simple things are the ones that actually make sense. But looking at every detail in a scope of gratitude. There's that word that we hear quite often, and we're like, oh yeah, gratitude, yeah, sure. But do we ever actually take the time to invest in it and to look at it and to look at everything in life in that perspective? At some of the most stressful, hectic moments, I also had so many beautiful, incredible things happen in my life. When my first kid was born, I was working 70 hours a week, but it meant my wife was able to stay home with the newborn. 15 years ago, I was on the floor dealing with ulcerative colitis, but 3 surgeries later, and having gone through it, I've been able to connect with a number of friends of mine that are going through it on their own. And now I can be the emotional support so they don't have to go through it by themselves. A global pandemic stopped my world of touring, which led me to creating this podcast that's now heard by more than 20,000 people each week. I could focus on the hours I used to work, the debilitating disease I once had, and no more, thankfully, not being able to perform live around the world, but instead, I look to see what they have given my life rather than taken from it. It can be difficult to be grateful when life is going 1,000 miles an hour. I get it, trust me. But I was able to search for my own source of peace through gratitude. I had to go to that deep well and pull out the emotional weeds around it and lower the bucket to drink from the well. And sometimes it's deep, this river of gratitude. It's deep under the surface, but it's there and it's waiting to be tapped. And with it, with gratitude, comes life. Or as the profound insight said by Willie Nelson, when I started counting my blessings, my whole life turned around. My dad loved Willie Nelson. All the removable temporary joys in this world, they're part of life. They're part of being alive, but don't lose sight of true joy that you're capable of experiencing. That silver lining with every cloud. It's found in the things that can't be consumed or sold or discarded. With a grateful heart, you won't hesitate when asked, where does your joy come from? Take a moment. Take a moment with a clean piece of paper and a pen or a pencil and write down just a few things that are not the removables. The things that you can draw from that well of gratitude. Like one or two things. Just make it simple. I think you'll find you'll start adding to the list quite quickly. But you won't be surprised to hear that you are your own joy if you look at it in the right perspective. You won't be afraid to open a little more to see how even the smallest amount of gratitude can change your life for the better. Where does your happiness come from? I have to be honest, I'd be really curious to hear. So drop me a note, chad@cometdownpodcast.com. Again, that's chad@cometdownpodcast.com. Where do you find your happiness? For more episodes, concert dates, or to send me some delicious chocolate chip cookies, visit cometdownpodcast.com. This podcast was written and produced by yours truly, Chad Lawson, composer, pianist, and nationally recognized sweet tooth. Now, before we part ways, I want to remind you that the views, expressions, and techniques in this episode are of my personal opinion and not intended to serve as a substitute for medical advice or diagnoses rendered to you by your individual doctor or other healthcare provider. Please seek the advice of a licensed physician or therapist for any medical or emotional concerns. I'm not a licensed therapist or physician, but I am an empath by nature, and I hope this and future podcast episodes can aid your emotional needs. To find a list of licensed professionals in your area, visit cometdownpodcast.com. And if you enjoy this podcast and want to support the time, the person involved, and content you hear each week, please consider pitching in $2 or $3 a month. Your contribution will help keep this podcast ad-free. Visit cometdownpodcast.com, look for the white coffee cup with the heart in the center, or scan the QR code at the bottom of the page. Again, cometdownpodcast.com. Remember, be kind to your mind. And join me next week as we calm it down.